Yes, you're good. You have 5.
Good.
I don't know why that room isn't showing up for me, but that is okay, I think.
Slim pickings tonight.
We have, why is that? Oh, because I'm not showing anything. Oh my goodness, that's why.
Look,
Yes.
we have to recalibrate from Mexico, we get it.
All right.
Did you start the recording yet?
Yes, yeah.
Perfect. Well, then we will go ahead and kick it off. Welcome, everyone. I am filling in again for Michael. We can kick it off with roll call. Start wherever.
Kristen Brinker, member.
Back to Mel.
Staff liaison present.
Pat Fitzgerald, vice chair, present.
Logan Dunning, member present.
Rick Himmelheinz, member present.
Colleen McGovern, guest.
There you go.
Wonderful.
Shelley, Sammy.
Kelly Oren, member present.
Sammy. Wait, do I have to say something?
Yeah, you could just say you're a guest.
Okay, I'm a guest. Sorry, I wasn't sure how to
All right, perfect. And that leads into welcoming the guests. So we have a couple of guests here tonight. Moving into approval of last month's minutes. So start off any questions, edits, concerns for last month's minutes. If not, I will petition a motion to accept last month's minutes.
Yeah, motion to approve September meeting minutes.
Second.
Perfect. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Perfect. Public forum.
So sorry, can you tell me really quick so you motioned, who seconded? Christine, perfect. Thank you.
Right. Public forum, is this the new section?
Yeah, so all commissions and boards, this is a new thing that we all have to follow. Public comment is just getting moved to the front right after minutes. That's all.
Got it.
So for our guest, if there's anything you would like to say for public comment, this is a place for you to do so if you would like.
I'm fine.
Or Sammy?
Is Sammy our presenter?
Sammy's our presenter.
Okay.
So she's gonna talk for way more than 3 minutes.
Got it.
Hopefully.
Fantastic. Okay, so we can move on, head into standing community projects updates.
I don't have anything pertinent for this meeting as far as our Sustainability Commission Communications Subcommittee. I'm flagging for the minutes that we'll need to have another subcommittee meeting, probably the last week of November or the first week of December, if the timing is still accurate to last year's calendar, to meet and discuss the subsequent magazine edition and whatever we want to put in there from a sustainability perspective. I think the call for content will be around December 9th, and that is the week of our meeting. So if we can have our Sustainability Commission meeting either the week prior or that Monday, we can convene and talk a little shop and then present our content for approval at the December 10th meeting. I think that timing should work for the comms team. So just wanted to flag that.
Do you want me to put out a doodle poll to folks to see?
I'll send you a handful of dates as a starting point, and we'll go from there.
Fantastic. Anything else? Not, we'll go ahead and move on to our Regional Air Quality Council presentation. Take it away, Sammy.
Awesome. And is there a way for me to share my screen or share a presentation?
Yes, yeah, you should have privileges to do so. If not, let me know and I can try.
Oh, yeah, I do. It says it's loading.
We see it.
Okay.
Sammy, really quick, do you see us on your end in the room? I'm on the Teams and I don't see this room, so I don't know if you're looking at like no one right now.
No, I see the room. It's
perfect.
Small, so but yeah, I can see everyone.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. My name is Sammy Herdman. I work for the Regional Air Quality Council. The Regional Air Quality Council is a small nonprofit. We are based in the Front Range, so in a 9-county region in the Front Range. It's the counties that are not meeting the EPA standards for ozone pollution. And so we were designated as the governor to be the lead air quality planning agency. We work with the state pretty closely to come up with the plan that is submitted to the EPA every couple of years, showing how the region can come into attainment with ozone standards. And we run a couple of different programs to improve air quality. So one that I'll be talking about a lot tonight is Engines Off. Then our other ones just briefly are Simple Steps, Better Air. So that's an education and outreach program. We teach people in our region how they can take individual actions to reduce air pollution. And we also send out ozone alerts through email and text, which are basically just alerts letting people know when there are dangerous levels of ozone pollution. CAR is another program. That's our Clean Air Auto Repair program. So we help low-income people who can't afford to have car improvements and don't meet emissions standards make car improvements. And then Mow Down Pollution is our program to incentivize businesses, local governments, and individuals to replace their gas-powered lawn and garden equipment with electric versions. And then I'll also just briefly talk about ground level ozone pollution. So this is the region's greatest public health threat. It exacerbates asthma and contributes to respiratory and cardiovascular diseases. And unlike particulate matter and other forms of air pollution, it is not visible. But if you are out running on a really hot day in the summer and you maybe feel like a tightness of your chest, that's ozone pollution. So ozone is formed when nitrogen oxides, often called NOx, and volatile organic compounds, which are called VOCs, usually combine with UV. And those ozone precursors come from a wide variety of sources, including power or facilities that create power, lawn and garden equipment engines, mobile sources, and a lot of different area sources. And then because UV is required to make the ozone, it's worse in the summer. So here are some sources of ozone that they contribute to, high summertime ozone concentrations. And the way that this is split out, it has light duty vehicles at the top, besides background concentrations of ozone. And that is one of the reasons why we focus so much on mobile emissions at the RAQ, and particularly why we have an engines off or vehicle anti-idling program. So vehicle idling is leaving a vehicle's internal combustion engine running while the vehicle's parked, and I'm not including being stopped while you're in traffic in this definition, just when you actually have the car in park. And there's a lot of different reasons why we focus on anti-idling. So the first one is the public health. In addition to releasing ozone precursors, vehicle idling releases carbon monoxide and particulate matter. It also contributes to climate change. So in the Front Range ozone non-attainment regions, that's 9 counties, Larimer and Weld down to the whole Denver metro region. Just in 1 year, just in idling, 700 million pounds of greenhouse gases are released. Also, idling is wasteful, so it's just burning fuel for no reason. In the US, each year, $20 billion of fuel are wasted from idling. And then it also adds up in maintenance costs because it's worse for your engine to just be idling than it is to be turned off and on. And then idling also contributes to environmental injustice because a lot of diesel vehicle idling occurs near industrial warehouses and along transportation corridors where there are a disproportionate amount of low-income and predominantly minority communities. And then the last reason that we focus on vehicle idling is because it's really low-hanging fruit and honestly just a really common sense solution. No one is really pro-idling, so there's very little opposition. You can see a really immediate, tangible benefit from it, and a lot of the reduction strategies are low cost or actually save money. So the Engines Off program has three main components. One of them is a grant program for mobile businesses or food trucks we're targeting particularly. And this is a grant that helps food trucks transition their gas, propane, or diesel generators over to batteries. We work with schools to reduce idling around playgrounds in schools by educating parents and guardians about why it's bad. And then we have a local governments program, which is why I'm here. So what can local governments do? There's a lot of different reduction strategies, and here are a couple of them. And there's a lot more on there's a lot more detail on our website. The first is community education campaigns. So this can be as simple as just having more anti-idling signs posted around, because a lot of people idle just because they aren't thinking about it. But then there's also a ton of resources online to run more robust education campaigns, either targeted at the general public or at a specific group. And different sources for these are the EPA, and different nonprofits have a lot of packages with marketing materials. The RAQ can help with this as well, because our Engines Off at School program that targets parents anywhere in our region. And then the Simple Steps Better Air program that I mentioned earlier is another education outreach campaign that has a lot of anti-idling messaging in it. Another reduction strategy for idling is to target public fleets. So emergency vehicles and construction vehicles are often exempt from anti-idling laws because they need power to operate their equipment, whether it's lights or radios or construction machinery. But in addition to being bad for air quality, fleet idling also wastes a lot of money. And so there's two strategies to reduce it. One is driver education. So you can cut down on unnecessary idling just by having the fleet manager pass some policies about why there should be less idling. And then another way is anti-idling technology. So there are battery-powered APUs that can power equipment while engines are turned off. So that might be a good option for utility or construction fleets. And then another option is the automatic engine start-stop systems, which is kind of a mouthful, but these systems are pretty small, pretty inexpensive, ranging from $500 to $1,500, and they attach onto vehicles like police vehicles or ambulances, and they gauge the battery power, so they'll automatically turn off the engine when the battery is high and turn it back on when it's low, and that can reduce idling by 50 to 70%. This usually pays itself back within 6 months. So for an example, the Burlington Police Department invested in these. They were about $500 when they purchased them, and they saved over $800 in fuel costs within a year of adopting them. I've spoken to a company or two about this, and they don't have exact quotes because it really depends on the type of vehicles you're using and the size of your fleet. But they can do, if you just make really simple inquiries into these technology, they will do audits and tell you how much money you could save and how quickly you would get paid back. Another reduction strategy is event center planning. So you could work with facilities that have a lot of idling, like arenas or other venues where people might be going, and there might be taxis or tour buses idling outside. You can partner to do marketing programs. And then the last two we'll talk about more at length: local ordinances and drive-through prohibitions or limitations. So anti-idling ordinances have a couple different benefits. One is that they provide a public education opportunity. This is a great thing to pair with posting signs or even partnering with us, because our Simple Steps Better Air program, we can target different advertising to different municipalities. So if there was to be an anti-idling ordinance, we could help inform the public about that. And anti-idling ordinances can strengthen community anti-idling campaigns. So specifically, like when I'm working at a school to teach parents and guardians about why they shouldn't idle, I talk about the climate change benefits, the health benefits, the cost savings benefits, and then I can also say, and it's illegal. Anti-idling ordinances can deter first-time or subsequent idling infractions, especially if the fines are high enough. They can hopefully just deter infractions instead of requiring enforcement after it happens. And then some considerations are the compliance with the state anti-idling law. So the state anti-idling law applies to commercial diesel vehicles that are have a gross vehicle weight rating of 14,000 pounds and above. So that's class 4 vehicles and up. So kind of a narrow segment of the cars on the road. It's a 5-minute law. It has really low fines, and it used to have a preemption, but this year we successfully removed that. So now municipalities can pass stronger anti-idling laws that apply to those large commercial vehicles if they so choose. This year, the law also changed to require statewide consistency with exemptions. So the state anti-idling law and most anti-idling laws everywhere have exemptions for if the temperature is really low, if the vehicle is running equipment, if it's loading or unloading, kind of common sense exemptions like that. Other considerations to think about are how long you would have the idling law be. So 1 minute, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and then what the fine structure would be. On the left here, some bits of our model anti-idling ordinance, and that's available on our website. We recommend a 1 minute limit for idling and somewhat high fines for commercial vehicle operators, because those fines usually go to the company that owns the vehicles, so Amazon or FedEx, and you want that to be large enough to be noticed. And then for non-commercial vehicles, it's pretty low. And then the last consideration is enforcement. And this is not something that we have the perfect answer to. And it's something that I'm interested in hearing all of your thoughts on afterwards. Some ideas are deterrence with high fines. I mentioned before that if there's signs and it says $1,000 fine for idling, then that might be enough to get people to, think twice before they just sit in their car in a parking lot. And then another one is to have your, I don't know who does enforcement, officers or right of way, but whoever you have, they could be more aggressive with idling enforcement, although I recognize that this issue is not maybe the best way to spend, limited resources and time. And then the last idea for enforcement, which is actually my favorite, is a citizens reporting mechanism. So an example of this being very successful is in New York City, where citizens can take videos of commercial vehicles that are idling and submit it through a portal. And then it'll be, reviewed. And if the idling did break the law, was for a long enough time period, then the citizen that reported it actually gets a portion of that fine. So they are incentivized to go out and find people who are idling. And some people have made 6 figures doing that, as a fun fact. And then, some other cities have more chill versions of that. So DC and Philadelphia both allow citizens reporting of idling, but they don't get incentives to do so. And that one's my favorite because a lot of cities already have apps and websites where people can report noise complaints or other public health nuisances. And it might be easy just to incorporate an idling component to that, whether it be uploading videos that people can get fined retroactively, or if it's just to report repeat offenders. That could work and help a lot, because I get calls and emails from people around the Front Range since I've started this program asking how do they have someone enforce some repeat idlers. So that includes large commercial vehicles that are always idling around a facility or some sort of warehouse, or even people who are just idling outside their house for 30 minutes every day unnecessarily. There are a lot of precedents for anti-idling ordinances. In the US, there are 34 states that have anti-idling laws, and DC. In ozone non-attainment regions, so places that have air quality problems that are similar to ours, a lot of county, city, and state governments have 1 to 3 minute idling standards. And some of them have 5-minute idling standards as well. And then in Colorado, I think about 10 municipalities have anti-idling laws, a lot of them up in the mountains. And Denver's is 5 minutes. And then are they effective? It's hard to tell because there's not a lot of data, because there's not a lot of enforcement. And an exception to that is New York City, which has their citizens reporting system is very effective. So the next strategy I'll talk about is drive-throughs. Drive-throughs facilitate idling because they create air pollution hotspots. They also cause congestion, and they are associated with higher incidences of collisions with cars, bicyclists, and pedestrians. And they also just don't really fit into a vision of a community-oriented walkable city. So different considerations for how to limit drive-throughs or mitigate the idling around drive-throughs are to ban the construction of new ones or phase out existing ones, or set limitations on how many could be located in any given area. And then this would probably have some opposition from business owners, but a more simple solution could be requiring anti-idling signage in drive-through lanes. And then the last strategy I'll talk about in more detail is our Engines Off at Schools program, which I've mentioned a couple times. But we focus on schools because children are more susceptible to the negative health impacts of idling and vehicle emissions in general. And if anyone here has been near a school around pickup or drop-off time, you've probably seen what I see frequently, which is a lot of parents and guardians will get to the school sometimes 10 minutes earlier than the bell rings, and sometimes an hour earlier, and just sit in their car and idle. And so we've had education campaigns where we have the school administrators send out emails to the parents about why they shouldn't idle. We've had students design anti-idling signs, and then some schools are having their students actually get involved and have this be like a community project they're working on. But at this couple schools that we have done observations at the beginning and ending of the program, we've seen a reduction in idling by 50%. And the reason I'm bringing this up here is because we usually work with individual principals to start these programs, but we are interested in doing some more kind of district-wide programs, especially around school bus idling, because there could be policies that school bus drivers follow to not idle near the schools. And then kind of all of the activities we would like to have at a more district-wide level. So something that principals, when they're hired, hear about, something that the district can facilitate. So yeah, that is everything. I would love to hear your thoughts on these policies, if you think any of them would be a good fit, and particularly if you think or have any ideas about enforcement for the anti-idling ordinances.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sammy. Super great info there. Any comments or questions right off the bat?
Sammy, thanks for being here and presenting. A lot of thoughts. I'm absolutely in your camp on this, but I was just shocked to hear that you said there's no opposition. A lot of this comes across, at least initially, as being heavy-handed, in terms of enforcement mechanisms and mandates. Not that I'm against those, but as far as being effective in policymaking at a local government level, seems like you have an uphill battle, and that's perhaps where we can help. But yeah, you touched on one. The first, as a parent of a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, I immediately think of school drop-off and just idling in those lanes. Maybe that's something that we could work with local schools on. Other thoughts were, living in Colorado, we're very seasonal, and we're only getting hotter summers. And I'd like maybe your theoretical response to this potential opposition of, it's 95 degrees outside, maybe 100. I am at school early picking up my kid. I'm not going to sit in my car. with my engine off, one. And the flip side of that, and I see it on my street every single year, is folks running outside and starting their car early to, even if it's just to defrost their windshield, right? Things like, heat their car. And that, that irks me about as much as I see someone watering their lawn at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, but neither here nor there. What is your response to those two scenarios? Or what's maybe a talking point that you could equip us with if we have conversations with our neighbors?
Yeah, thanks. And sorry, I can't really see who's speaking, so.
Logan, hi.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, if you guys just say your name when you start talking, that would be really helpful. Yeah, so good points. And to clarify, when I said no opposition, I meant not to the specific things I was talking about, because there certainly will be for some of these ideas, but for, anti-idling as a concept, we found that even, the trucking association, lobbyists is all for it, because it really does save on costs, idling. So no major opposition as a concept. And then for your 2 points about temperatures, so at the schools that we work at on those hot days, we do see more idling, and that's expected. But what we also see is parents getting out of their car and waiting in the shade somewhere, or not showing up as early to try to reduce their idling. And I think that those are both good ways to not be putting emissions into the air. And then for cold temperatures, there are exemptions in all these anti-idling laws about how cold it should be. But then, yeah, kind of similar response would be, if you have to defrost your windows, you have to defrost your windows. But if it's just for a comfort thing, like putting on a jacket could be a way that you could stay comfortable the first few minutes you're in your car without having to, needlessly pollute.
Thanks. Can I ask another question?
Absolutely.
While I've got the microphone, Logan again. I recently traveled both to Portland and Austin, and whenever I was waiting to pick up family, both of their cell lots had very visible, fairly aggressive anti-idling signage. And I was idling, and I turned my car off because I felt the kind of public pressure, if you will. What campaign work is ongoing at DIA currently?
I'm not sure about DIA specifically, actually. There are rules about like private land can have signs up if they would like to, but public right-of-way, you need to go through the city, obviously, to put those signs up. So that's kind of what I've been looking into more. But I love that story that the sign made you turn off your engine, because that's just proof that education alone can often be really effective.
Totally. All right, I'll give the mic off. Someone else.
Can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your information. I found it very informative, and this has always been a pet peeve of mine, idling, because I see it with neighbors and so on. But I'm really hesitant to ever confront anybody or talk to people about it. And one thing, just anecdotally, that I've noticed in Inglewood is the really huge parking lots, because I bike a lot, and people on their lunch breaks will be idling their cars while they're eating. And it's already really hot in those parking lots, which is, so I really get it why you would want the AC on, but it just doesn't seem a really appropriate place to be, idling the car that long. So I do think that signs in those places would really help. And just a second point is about enforcement. I hate to say this, but I do see police vehicles and Inglewood City vehicles idling too. So I feel if I call, let's say, who do I call? The non-emergency police? I just don't know that they would be that receptive.
So quick thing for the police vehicles, a lot of times they do that because their technology has to be run. But Sammy, the one thing that she brought up earlier, which I'm gonna bring up to our new fleets person they just got hired on this month, was that car, Sam, I don't remember what you called it, but essentially it'll help them turn off their car, run the battery, and it'll trigger when the car has to run back on to make sure that the battery doesn't die. So that's why a lot of police officers do it, but I agree with you. I've heard from other residents that they see non-police vehicles idling a lot. Education 101 right there.
Yeah, I think so.
And I guess, Sammy, this might be pointing out the positive or the obvious here, but the thing not said is that if these are all electric vehicles, this doesn't apply. You can idle as much as you want. You're just draining your own battery. Correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Cool.
this would only apply to internal combustion engines. And so, yeah, that's it's kind of what you might consider an interim measure until our society is fully running on electric vehicles. You want to reduce the emissions as much as possible, particularly because the ozone problem is such an issue immediately that any reductions in emissions we can get helps us get a little bit closer to the standards we need to meet.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Sammy, Rick Emil Heinz, because you asked the question, I'm going to kind of address the sort of enforcement issue. That seems very, very, very difficult.
Mhm.
And I would almost feel that rather than, it's the stick versus the carrot. And if you're going to try to make change happen or try to get cultural change happen, signs, or some, media sort of advertising program or something like that, because I just can't see the city taking on an enforcement of this on top of everything else. It's just too difficult, possibly too challenging to draw the limits on that. There's so many things that I just don't see happening on enforcement. I think you'd go the other direction with it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard a lot, and I agree with to a great extent. I would ask though to consider commercial vehicles as kind of a different realm than personal vehicles, because there are often just kind of cultures within companies or around warehouses where people are idling diesel vehicles for a really long time. And I think that might be easier to address because it's just one location, really in your face, the idling.
Is that the state already has idling limitations in their laws, is that correct?
Yeah, 5-minute idling law, which in our opinion is too long and makes it harder to enforce. And the fines are very low, so they also don't carry much weight if they are enforced. And yeah, it just isn't enforced that frequently at all.
Thank you.
One follow-up I can do for next meeting is asking our code enforcement team, since it is a state law, like what they've seen with it and like pros and cons of dealing with it. I can do that as a follow-up.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from code enforcement, just to their exposure. Sammy, Logan again, shocker. You mentioned the state regulations and enforcement mechanisms around commercial vehicles. Does the state have the jurisdiction to apply that to non-commercial vehicles? I think the answer is yes, but that seems like it would be very heavy-handed, or I would be aware of it at least.
You cut out a little bit, but I think you're asking, can the state also make an anti-idling law for passenger vehicles?
Yep.
I don't think it would, they could, but I don't think it would pass. That would probably have some opposition.
And just follow up again, if the state has regulations on the books and say Inglewood, for purposes of this conversation, would adopt something, would it have to align with state law, or could we adopt as a municipality our own set of regulations at a local level?
Yeah, you can do whatever you would like as long as the exemptions are aligned with the state's exemptions. And they make a lot of sense, the exemptions. It's for health and safety reasons mostly and for running equipment. So, but yeah, you can have it be as stringent as you would like it to be.
Have you seen an appetite across the Front Range for something like this?
We really just started looking around. I've only talked to one other city before you all. But that's partially because there was a preemption on the state law, so local governments couldn't do anything more stringent, and that has very recently been lifted as of this past legislative session.
Sammy, this is Mel. Do you know what other communities that do have the fines in place, like if that goes to a special fund that they can do like cool projects with, or like do you know where that goes?
I don't know, and that's a really good question. I'm trying to think. I know in New York it goes to their like environment department, so it goes into, a related fund, but yeah, otherwise not sure.
This is Christine. How long when you're waiting in your car would it make sense to turn off your engine?
Well, 10 seconds is the amount of time it takes for idling to be worse for your engine than just turning it off and on. And then the rule that I keep in my head is just a minute, and that's what we recommend to people, 1 minute.
Anything else? If not, thanks, Sammy. This is a super fascinating, lightning discussion, and I think we'll hopefully learn some more from the city itself about code enforcement about this. So, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Sammy.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
And I would love to hear follow-ups. I'm sure we'll be in touch, Mel, but particularly you said you'd mentioned this to your fleet manager, and I'd be curious to hear what the code enforcement says as well.
Sammy, where can we follow your work as this continues to roll out?
Yeah, it'll be on enginesoff.org, and then there's links to that from the Regional Air Quality Council's website.
Cool. Yep.
One more quick question. I'm sorry to go back a step. For the state law for certain commercial vehicles, what size of vehicles are we talking that are regulated by the state? And then what sorts of commercial vehicles aren't? Like, is the state only trash truck and school bus size, or what?
Public vehicles are not included, and the size, it's basically anything from your standard like FedEx delivery truck sized and up to like 18-wheelers. So kind of mostly all commercial diesel vehicles.
Sammy, this is Mel. I have one question for you too. On the enginesoff.org, will you be posting if like other communities pass ordinances so people can follow along, or municipalities that want to see who's doing it? Is that where folks can find that, or would that be more internal?
Definitely I need to build out our local government page on the EngineSoft website, but I will post updates, and as things move forward in different municipalities, we'll definitely be advertising them on the website.
Great.
Fantastic. Sweet. Thanks, Sammy.
Thank you all. I'm going to log off, but yeah, thanks for having me.
Sounds good. Take care.
Thanks, Sammy.
All right. That was fascinating.
Any polling thoughts from that the commission would want to dive deeper in, either now or at a separate meeting? Or is that just like, we just want to mull over it for a minute?
I'd be curious to hear where we're at currently as a city.
That's
Some fact finding.
bringing in, the law enforcement, I think,
If
will
it's
be a
on
good
their
follow-up,
radar,
just to see what's going on.
Yeah.
See.
That's a good next step.
I mean, it seems like all roads lead to electrification. If we
Yeah.
can get there.
That's what I think.
Yes.
And we do have a goal of 20% of our fleet will be EV by 2030. And that's another push too for EVs for the fleet, is that we won't get people saying that we're idling, in which I think they are. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think having some additional numbers to this would be helpful to steal on.
Electric vehicles, however, just to make them is like the equivalent of putting 300,000 miles of carbon into the air. So I don't think I think people just need to drive less and to take public transportation.
I appreciate that.
All right, sweet, so we can move on. Next up, we have Community Climate Resilience Workshops.
That's me.
All right, take it away.
All right, I'm gonna pull this back up. So this is something that I'm really excited about. So last year, the city started looking at climate resiliency. We did an internal, let me pull this up. We did an internal workshop with the Colorado Resiliency Office and internal staff. We wanted to have this portion done actually in June of this year, but because of so many grants, which is never a bad thing, it got pushed a little bit. So we're doing it now. So we're hosting 2 community, this time not internal staff, community climate resiliency workshops, November 6th and November 13th. And you might say, what is a community climate resiliency workshop? Essentially, it's where residents of vulnerable and impacted communities define for themselves, so the government doesn't define it, they define for themselves the complex climate challenges they face, and then they come up with the solutions for those as well. Climate resilience planning is what I specifically did in AmeriCorps in Montana. It is my favorite thing to do, really just hearing from people, their lived experiences, and yeah, just hearing from them about how they want to fix things because residents have the answers for their problems. So the why about it is multiple, here are just some. I truly believe a community is only as strong as its most vulnerable members. I think folks in the South with the hurricane would definitely agree to that right now as well. Climate change impacts vulnerable communities at such a disproportionate rate. They really are the most vulnerable to climate change. And then a climate resilient community can effectively prepare for and even hopefully bounce back better when you have these shocks or stressors. And why we say bounce back better is because if you're already prepared for something to happen, a lot of times there's benefits for there anyway. So for the example of increased summer heat leading to increased energy bills, if you electrify your house, not only are you decreasing those energy bills, you're helping your air quality, you're helping the environment. There's just a lot of better things to go along with it. So we already know the 3 big climate change drivers to the area, to Englewood, to the state. So these workshops are not about identifying those. We have enough data and science to know that these are it. But the workshop participants are going to come and have these 3 kind of buckets to look at. We're going to have mapping exercises and everything. And they get to say for heat and drought, they might say, you know, everyone in our neighborhood, we have no air conditioning. So when it's extreme heat, we're at a high risk of heat stroke. Or they might come up with something else. But this is a way for us to hear and understand what's going on at a ground level in these communities. And then, so sorry, I forgot to say this, how we're identifying the most climate vulnerable census blocks in Englewood is from state data from the EnviroScreen score. So they do interlays of data that they have of looking at things like income level, race, age, a bunch of different things. Asthma is part of that too, to say these are areas in your community that are very likely more vulnerable than the rest. And Englewood, unfortunately, does have quite a few of those. So as I said, it's November 6th and November 13th. We're capping it at 35 people. And why we're capping it and having a limited amount is so that we can hear from everybody. If you have an open house, you are not going to hear from everyone. People can feel drowned out. It already can be a very intimidating thing to be in, especially if you're not used to interacting with your local government or with other people. So we want to make this a neutral ground, a place where people can open up and be heard and feel trust and establish trust with those around them. So the November 6th workshop is all about identifying community climate resilience vulnerabilities. So this is kind of the doom and gloom of it. We're only looking at problems, not solutions. And then workshop 2 which in order to come to the workshop, you have to say that you can come to both. We want people to go along this journey together. Workshop 2 is all about solutions. So we're gonna pick the top 10 or so top vulnerabilities that the group decides on at the first one. And then we say, here are our problems, what are solutions that we wanna see and that for them to be enacted. And then at the end of those 2 workshops, we're gonna do a high-level resiliency framework. It's gonna be public. Everyone's gonna be able to see them. We're gonna present them. And by we, I'll present them. I will force a volunteer to do it. I'll present it to City Council and say, here's just what was identified. We think this is a really perfect time. I know you all are very in tune with the strategic plan of the city, but it ends in 2025. We're hoping that these recommendations can be infused to the upcoming strategic plan. And then alternatively to that, we're really hoping that this helps increase our emergency preparedness, not only for Englewood, but a county as a whole. We see it as like a bigger picture benefit. In order to ensure equity, we're including childcare, translation, a financial stipend if folks need it. In order to increase accessibility, it's going to be at Malley, which is right next to a public transportation line. It's also, even though it is city owned, it's a pretty neutral ground. It's a recreation center. It's not this big, scary civic center building. For our mobile home communities, Englewood has 7 of them, and they are wonderful. We did door-to-door outreach to them last year. And so we're going to do specific door hanger flyers for those 7 mobile home communities. Because when we did outreach to them last time, we heard that, you know, sometimes technology isn't the thing that they lean to most, or even social media. So doing that direct, like we are having this event so they can reach out to us. And then the last thing is we're hiring an outside facilitator to lead both workshops. We don't want the government running this. We want people to feel open and that they can be honest. And even if that honesty is harsh, we want to hear it. So that outside facilitator will hopefully help facilitate that.
Who's the facilitator?
We are using someone from IAP2. It's someone that Madeline and the neighborhood resources groups had used. And I should know what IAP2 stands for. It's like the International Association for Public Engagement, I want to say. She had used her before and really liked her. We met with her and she's super lovely. So we're gonna have her do these 2 workshops. And then finally, and then I'll stop talking, is the last one, is how does this relate to our sustainability plan? So we have a goal in there as of just this year of climate action, which is a community that addresses current and future environmental, economic, and social climate vulnerabilities through implementing climate adaptation and mitigation projects and practices. This is spot on to what that is. And then our project, not to repeat what we just said, just highlighting the bottom, especially in areas with the highest climate change vulnerability risk. That is exactly what these 2 workshops are. And even though we're focused on the most climate vulnerable areas, I guarantee that the results that come out for it will benefit Englewood as a whole and not just these certain census blocks. Okay, so that is it for me. I would love to hear feedback or questions or comments that folks have about it.
How are you selecting the group of 35? If you have more
Great question. So really leaning into Madeline and her neighborhood resource group because she already has such a civically engaged folks, but also folks in those census block areas. So if the leaders don't want to do it, they know other folks that likely would. We're also looking for businesses in these areas. And so luckily we have connections with some of the businesses, especially those dealing with like frontline work, I think is a big one, especially dealing with heat. So a lot of times going into the channels that we already know, and then for the mobile home doing that direct mailer of like, we would love for you to participate. Another thing for that, which I'm really excited for, I don't know if I said this last time, but I had just found out about Colorado's Finest has a sustainability program. Did you guys know that? It's called SAGE. It's the Sustainable Agriculture and Green Energy Program. And I reached out to their teacher and I was like, I can't believe I never knew about this. I've been at the city for 3 years. So we did a field trip, we did a tour, and that teacher is gonna come and bring 2 students, so we have a youth voice there as well. Yeah, and he was like, they have to do community service hours to graduate, so they will be there.
What's it called? Sage?
It's a program through Colorado's Finest.
Yeah, I got it pulled up.
Yep. Mhm.
Nice.
But also open because we've been doing outreach for the past 2 weeks. And we also invited Case, reached out to Jan to make sure that we have a Case member there. We would love Sustainability Commission folks to be there. So if you're interested, please sign up. And yeah, just very open if you think there are other channels to hit these vulnerable census blocks.
35 seems like a limiting number, and I understand the reasoning behind it. Is there anticipation that this program would expand or repeat if you found successes in it to reach 35 more or something along that line?
Yeah, and I'll say 35 is flexible. We even talked to our facilitator, and she's like, if you guys do get more of like a high interest, we can probably accommodate more, which is nice. But absolutely, if there's like a really big pull of folks really liking it and being really engaged, I hope this becomes more than just these 2 workshops.
Do you have an idea of how to sort of mark the success of this? Do you have a success factor into this at all?
So the biggest success, I think, will be having the 35 plus people come, and the result of it being that high level community climate resilience framework of identifying those problems and coming up with those solutions that the community identifies. But in order to make sure that it's not, it's called like parachute serving, where you come in, ask for their advice, and then never talk to those people again. We're gonna have them get at least biannual updates on where the projects are, especially if City Council wants to include some or all of them in the updated plan. So just making sure they're engaged, and that's something that Sean Lewis was actually really great about for his Englewood engaged folks, making sure that they get updates of like, here's what's going on in the city since you're already engaged. But again, open to so much feedback if you're like, I have a great idea for how to keep this going.
I like that question, and I like the tie from the workshop to city planning. You know, it's tough when it's qualitative in nature, but it would be cool to maybe set a goal of seeing X number of recommendations make their way into the city's sustainability plan, or just something even at high level. I like that idea.
So if there are more than 35 people, how do you deselect them?
So for doing the outreach, we're saying that it's a first come, first served for the folks in the certain neighborhoods, just because we want to make sure that we have a diverse group there. And then if we have overflow, we would add to that first come, first serve.
And how would those community members find out about this?
So we're using Madeline's neighborhood resource group, which she, from my knowledge, has someone in almost every single neighborhood. And if they can't go, then they are gonna reach out to their networks to see. But yeah, just a lot of reaching out to folks to see.
Thank you.
Is this funded by the city?
Mm-hmm.
Is there pizza?
There's dinner is provided. Dinner is provided. And dietary restrictions are on the RSVP form. We're gonna make sure everyone can eat. You do not want to have a meeting when people are hungry. I've been there. Not good. Everything's just very negative.
I did register, but my thought was kind of from some of the other questions here. There are likely, you know, if you hit that 35, there are likely other voices that need to be at that meeting other than my own, right? So it sounds like there's a selection evaluation process that could knock me off the list, right? Because there's someone from a higher risk neighborhood. Is that correct?
Something I will say though, which is very unfortunate, is as much as I would love to think we would have people knocking at our doors to come, it is so hard to get people to come to events. Like, even if we're like, we'll pay you if you need it and we'll give you dinner, it's still so difficult. I hope I have that problem where I'm like, oh my gosh, we can't afford to have everyone here. But yeah, I haven't had that issue for other events where I'm like crying to have people come.
Awesome. Any other comments, questions? All right. Super excited for that. That sounds great.
Okay, this is my last thing
Yep,
for me.
go on.
City updates, an event genius was sent out for folks for 2024 events. No one has to sign up for them. It's all up to you all. I'm gonna work with our events manager for 2025 stuff, so you get that in advance of January, hopefully. Another update, the Charge Ahead Colorado.
Two events out.
That's
Oh, sorry, the two events are the Turkey Trot, I wanna say is one of them, and Trunk or Treat.
That's right.
Yes.
how was that sent out?
Yeah.
Did I not send it in the email?
I didn't see it.
I mean, I could have missed it,
The sign up?
so
Yeah.
There's sign ups in the email.
don't,
Oh, okay.
There's a link in there.
There's a link.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was a link.
I would not put it past me to forget it though, so I was like, oh.
Okay, so when you click on it, it tells you in very small, like,
oh, here it
opaque
is.
text color, what the two events
I
are.
got it.
Oh, good, a
So maybe
mystery.
beef that up a little bit, but they are
Like,
there.
what are you setting up for?
Yeah, that's kind of, I clicked through it.
Well, those things are on there.
They're on there.
They are.
If you're
You
ever
did
like,
send it, you linked it.
if you're ever like, what is this? Just ask, and I'll send a link, hopefully. But yeah, that went out. Something really exciting is last night, the Charge Ahead Colorado grant, which we were awarded, went in front of city council. Anytime the city gets a grant, council still has to approve it. And so it was unanimously approved on the first reading. So it still has to go through a second reading, but it's usually, if it makes it past the first, you're pretty good for the second. And then we can get moving on it.
What were the 5 locations?
So we have Englewood Recreation Center, the Malley Center, Broken T, Pirates Cove, and Centennial Park. And fast chargers are slated for the 2 recreation centers.
And I was watching the meeting last night and Mel handled herself admirably.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, you did
She
so
did get
good.
questions.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a big win. The public building electrification grant is going in front of council on the 21st. Victor, our director. Oh wait, that is right. Victor, our director of public works, is gonna be handling that one. And that's our $750,000 one. And then the last one, I just want to give an update so you all don't think that it just went out into nothingness. The tree protection ordinance is still with the Parks Commission. With the Parks Fund, I'm sure you can all know that they're just swamped right now, but I got reassurance that it is with them. And so I'll make sure to give at least every other month updates on like where that is. So it didn't get lost.
That's appreciated.
Yeah. I'm done.
Yeah, so moving on. Do we have ideas, topics for November? Let's see.
I recently learned about a program called SAGE, Sustainable Agriculture and Green Energy at Colorado's Finest. And by recently, I mean like 4 minutes ago. So that we need to hear about.
I'd like to hear that.
Maybe we could invite the teacher here.
And Scott is
And-
wonderful.
Yeah.
He's so amazing.
Do they have like a student liaison or anything?
I don't believe so, but I could ask.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have a student come.
That
on,
would be
teacher.
great.
Yeah.
You can push for
It's
that.
fun
Yeah.
seeing young people.
Yes. I had the same idea, Christine. It's cool.
Like,
That
how
was
have we
way-
not
yeah,
known
way
about
for-
this little hidden gem?
Awesome.
I can't even remember what I Googled, and I was like, that's an Englewood? I was like, oh my gosh.
Potential follow-up from fleet and code enforcement about idling. Are these, sorry, go ahead.
Post-election, right?
Is the next one post-election?
Yeah.
Yes.
Potentially. That's what tracks, yeah.
It's, yeah, we're a week after the election.
Are these already ideas or are these pitched ideas? quarterly newsletter?
Totally up to you all. So our sustainability grant closes on October 31st. So if you all wanted to hear the projects that were funded, I can give like a brief little overview of those. And then we do have the quarterly newsletter review, so you all will just give the green light for it next.
Yep. Perfect, yep.
You'll send it out beforehand, right?
Yes,
Cool.
yeah.
Perfect. Anything else?
Tracy, have you had your event yet?
No, I don't, since I was late, I didn't get a chance to bring it up. It's on Sunday, a neighborhood improvement grant project at Baird Park. I would love volunteers. If you would like to, if you're not doing anything and you would like to
What
come
time?
and shovel some mulch and, start transforming part of Baird Park, that would be awesome. 10 to 1-ish. I'm gonna just say ish because it's just gonna be till we have it done, basically. And this is just phase 1 of the project. We're gonna create the pathways and do the sheet mulching of the grass, just to basically kill that off over the winter. And then in the spring we'll plant, so.
Tracy, I can set up a volunteer sign up form for you if you like, and then to
Yeah.
be on the safe side, I think I might just post it as a meeting, and then if you get more than one additional commission member, it's covered because it's posted.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I'll just send the sign up, I just have a sign up form, it's quite easy. There'll be food, be a little light music.
You should lead with that.
I mean, great weather,
Tracy, will it be you a cappella? Is that the music?
No, no, and no. So,
I'm putting that in the minutes, so. All in favor, say aye.
I want people to come. So, yeah, thanks for asking about it. It'll be good. It'll be fun.
Excuse my ignorance, where's Baird Park?
Do you know where Charles Hay is?
Yep.
It's,
It's right there?
yeah, so the city ditch basically divides the
Gotcha.
two properties. Because if you're looking from Dowling onto it, the left side of the city ditch is parks.
Oh, I see.
And the right side is school property.
Oh.
And I just have a little section.
Baird Park, got it.
So like, it's right off of Downing, basically.
Mm.
And they gave, I forget the square footage, but it's not too big. But the hopes is that it will expand for future.
Which if
Not
you're
taking
getting
away
it,
all the
will.
grass, I'm not doing that. So please don't tell your neighbors that. Not what this is about.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And I'll send you that form.
Send it out.
Any other ideas, suggestions? I think if we could get Sage some kind of presentation, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Just like give a little spiel. Yeah,
I would love that.
Yeah.
Yes. Cool.
awesome.
Go vote. Ballots drop next week.
On Friday. See, I already did public forum, so does that bring us to the end?
Mm-hmm.
All
Can I
right.
jump in with a commission choice? As you probably know, I am involved with the bond right now, and just an update on that. We had a bit of a kerfuffle with the signage, and that has been resolved now, so if anybody would like new signage, I have it in my car. We actually got it today.
So I have to take.
That was my
It'll be
next
taken
line for you,
before you
Tracy, particularly because Lisa, I think you have some. Any existing signs that are out there, because they are the property of the city has requested that we return it to them. And we are offering a free swap of brand new signs that are more colorful and more informational than the old signs. So if you are interested, and as well as if anybody is interested in assisting with the process of educating our community by walking neighborhoods and handing out cards, I have cards too. So whatever you would like.
So how does that look at my event on Sunday if there were some informational pamphlets from you
Absolutely.
and signs to pass out? Is that good?
Okay, let's see, because it would be treated as a public event. And the public events, we have canvassed public events, you know, the neighborhood nights and things like that. I think it would be treated in the same manner. So it's
Even though it's a Inglewood grant project.
let me check on that. I don't want to trip into it.
I know,
Maybe.
because obviously I'm thankful to the city of
Yeah.
Inglewood for the grant, but I don't want to, this is a great opportunity
It is.
to publicize
Absolutely.
the bond.
Let me connect with you.
Okay.
And we'll do it that way.
Sorry, what are the signs about?
Oh, I'm sorry. The signs are for there is a bond on the November election for parks and recreation.
Okay.
Improvements, expansions, upgrades, things like that for the city. And if you'd like some more information, I have something I can give you afterwards, after the meeting.
Oh, I see, okay. It's like, Rick, don't you dare get me in trouble.
And with that, I believe I will adjourn the meeting and allow Rick to exercise his own rights. Are we
Bye,
done?
Shelley.
Hey, Shelley. Hey, Shelley. Reading that, dude.
Hi.
Got it.